commit an atrocity of some kind. Or other conservatives speak of these bailouts that apparently are going to go on forever as if these are matters of genteel disagreement. So Bill Kristol said, when faced with, you all know him, when faced with the $700 billion bailout that later became $800+ billion, he said, quote, "I have my doubts about this." Well, that's probably the boldest statement we've heard from Bill Kristol on this matter. He has his doubts. And these are the people who pose as the leaders of the conservative movement. No wonder it's in the toilet. Now, John McCain could have turned his campaign around if he had said, "I'm against the bailout." That's just 4 words. He could have said, "Look at what a phony this Barack Obama is, talking about change. Yeah, change means more bailouts for Wall Street. What big change that is. Wow, what dramatic change." He could have had a field day with this, but instead, well, he had to suspend his campaign so he could rush back to Washington to help save the country by means of the bailout. Talk about a missed opportunity. And he has only himself to blame for that. Now, my view is we should be ecumenical now. We should be broad-minded now. We should let bygones be bygones. If during the Bush years you found yourself defending things that you knew in your heart you shouldn't have, if you sat back while principles you believed in were trampled on, but you kept making excuses for it, but you see the error of your ways, it's not too late. It's Lent, after all. You can do penance. We welcome you with open arms because the intellectual wherewithal, the intellectual ammunition that we're going to need to fight this battle is not in the main conservative magazines, where they don't even have anybody on staff who can write about economics. They have to farm it out. It's in this room. So we welcome you with open arms. If you've awakened after the 8 years drunk with a hangover and you say, "Man, oh man, I shouldn't have done that," we happily welcome you. But if you're going to defend bailouts or bank nationalization and tell us how sadly necessary it all is, or defend Ben Bernanke and the Federal Reserve as if that has anything whatsoever to do with a free market, then get out of the way. Now, I'm happy to report things are changing. That there are some conservatives who are starting to ask fundamental questions, who aren't just rearranging the deck chairs. I've been doing an awful lot of radio in promotion of my book. I was on a show, a syndicated program, The Martha Zoller Show. And she said to me, "Do we really need a Federal Reserve System after all?" And I thought, it is amazing what Ron Paul has made possible. I've been on the Michael Medved show a couple times the last couple weeks. In fact, I was even on today. And even he has said, you know, "You have changed my way of thinking." And even he is saying, "Do we really need a Federal Reserve System?" Now, anybody at CPAC knows Ludwig von Mises and F.A. Hayek. And if you don't know those names, then you shouldn't be here. You should be home studying. Everybody claims he loves Mises and Hayek because they're for the free market. But what is it they all overlook about Mises and Hayek? They were all against the central bank because it screws up the free market. Even those who claim to support the free market see nothing wrong with a government-established national bank that has monopoly power to create money out of thin air, and they spend their time talking about what our Soviet commissar in charge of money and interest rates ought to be doing, instead of asking whether we need a Soviet commissar in charge of money and interest rates. The housing bubble could not have arisen without the Fed. If people had simply started buying a lot of houses, what would have happened is that banks' resources would have been depleted, so interest rates would have shot up, and that would have put an end to it. That would have discouraged any further speculation in real estate. But when you can create money out of thin air, well, you can keep the illusion going and going and going. The banks have a ton to lend. They can force interest rates down, and the thing keeps on going. So we have in our country a group that believes you can print wealth into existence, another group that believes you can spend it into existence, and then a third group that believes in both. But then you have a fourth group, and that's us. We argue that wealth has to be created. It has to be saved, invested, you need entrepreneurial skill. This is what a grown-up believes about the economy, and unfortunately we need to be lecturing the children. Now, what happens now? Well, neoconservatism is not the future. Everybody hates neoconservatism. There are like 12 people who still support it. Unless you want to grow up to be a military contractor, or get a sinecure in Parasite City, or I don't know, be a professional idiot for a living, there's no attraction there. Barack Obama claims to be the future, but he's as much a product of the past as the people he criticizes. Because what does he propose? More dumb guy Keynesianism, more bailouts, more central bank manipulation of the economy. So doing more of the same, that's change we can believe in. Well, what would an ambitious politician be without an Orwellian campaign slogan? But although it might sound like a cliche, it happens to be true that the future is found right here in this room. I have never been prouder than I am of my association with all of you. You actually have something to say that isn't just more of the same. Our country, meanwhile, is filled with people who have been clueless on the economy for years. In fact, it's worse than that. The country is being run by these people. These days, there is very little you can be certain of. But one of them is that whatever Washington does with regard to the economy, it will be the exact opposite of what anyone with any sense would do. So I'm coming up on my time. So ladies and gentlemen, this is our moment. We have the answers. We know what got us here. We understand what's happening now. We know what is to be done to fix it. So now we need to get out there, learn this stuff, and make ourselves heard. We do not compromise with looters, and that's who's governing us. This is not a question of whether to install a traffic light somewhere. This is our republic. For the sake of our liberty and our prosperity, we intend to roll back every one of the incursions they've made on our economy and our freedom, and keep pushing back until we can live as a free people once again. No conservative movement worth speaking of would hesitate for a minute to embrace this program. So what say you, CPAC? Do we rearrange more deck chairs, or do we fight?